Goodness to you, it's Sporty King. And you know I always say goodness because I don't know whether you're watching morning, afternoon, or evening. But isn't it great to have good in front of your salutation? Think about that. Welcome to your it's the MMM, the Monday Midday Moment, to give you a boost during the day and keep you moving on your path to excellence. And we all know that excellence is a wonderful goal. It's attainable, it's repeatable, and it's a great moment. Today, I'm continuing to share thoughts from my personal experience and belief. In fact, I call it Know and Believe. And I share my speaker tips. As a speaker, if you ask a question, be sure to span the audience slowly back and forth at least twice. You see, too often the speaker asks a question and only looks for a hand once. If possible, walk toward the side of the room where the question comes from. You see, then you repeat the question asked by the audience member before responding. This ensures, one, that the rest of the audience hears the actual question that was asked. Two, it ensures that you're answering the question that was asked. And three, really kind of more importantly, or very important, it gives you a chance to format your response. Now, when you repeat the question, you have one of two options. One, you can parrot the answer. The question, which is, in other words, repeat the question word for word for what the person asked. If it's a short question, parroting works the best because you can repeat exactly what the person said. If it's a long question, it's harder to parrot it and get word for word what they said. So therefore, your best option is to paraphrase. And now, meanwhile, whether it's a short or long question, paraphrasing works well either way. Because if it's a short question that might be technical, your paraphrasing will give you another few options. One, it'll make sure that you understood what the person is asking, if there's a technical term in there. Two, there may be a technical term in there that somebody else in the audience doesn't understand. So by your paraphrasing it, and then the person who asked the question confirming that, yes, that's what I'm asking, that will help someone else who may not be familiar with the term that the other person asked. And sometimes you may know this by instinct. You may know that there's a word that somebody else may not know. And then therefore, by you clarifying it, by you paraphrasing, you clarify that use of the word without, you can even say, and by the way, by saying this, are you also asking that? See, that way it zooms in on that difficult word for somebody else. But this is all the conversations that are going on in your head. So I hope that that's why I know these tips will be helpful to you. So parrot or paraphrase. And make sure that you get the question that's being asked answered. Now, as you get to the end, think about this. You ever hear somebody say, oh, there are no questions? Well, I guess I wasn't that good. Or, oh, I guess I was thorough enough where no one has questions. Ladies and gentlemen, you do not evaluate the presentation according to whether or not you get questions at the end. Understand that your audience may ingest a lot of information in a short period of time. So don't decide that there were no questions, so therefore you did great, or even that maybe you weren't good because there are no questions, and vice versa. Don't decide that maybe you weren't good since there aren't any questions, or maybe you were good since there aren't any questions. And then again, this is where you want to make sure that you span that audience carefully and slowly. But once you open the floor for questions, see, that's the key. You have to be comfortable in silence. Just because there are no instant questions, the moment you say, are there any questions? They don't just decide, okay, well, there are no questions and I guess I did well or I guess I didn't well. No. Are there any questions? Span the audience slowly at least twice. And this may be a good time to span it 3 times. But you got to be comfortable in silence once you open the floor for questions. people may not know, they don't necessarily know that you're coming to the end, or they may not be happening. Some people may, oh, okay, it's about 30 minutes, it's going to be ending. That may happen, but there's somebody who's so fully into your presentation that they don't notice the time. And they don't know what questions they have. Maybe they are expecting it. So give them the time. Be comfortable in silence. Your confidence can often be in your silence. And that's why you have to know and believe that you make a difference most when you know that you hear your audience. See, that's what that silence will also acknowledge to them, that you're comfortable in silence and ready to hear if they have any questions. And then you let them know that you hear them by how you feel the questions. See, that's more important. And that's where the parroting or paraphrasing comes in. It's making sure that you hear what they say and that you answer accordingly. Okay? Once you do ask the question, by the way, be open to the chance that someone else will have it. Maybe you don't know the answer, but be open to the chance that someone else will have it, and then admit it. Admit that you don't have the answer right now. But the key is you lead them to getting the answer in the right direction. Either someone else in the audience may have the answer, which is, by the way, sometimes wonderful to let somebody else in the audience answer, because sometimes even sometimes if you know the answer, I don't particularly like to say, oh, that's a good question. I don't subscribe to saying that, because to me, once you say that's a good question, then I think that you are therefore obligated to at some point say that's not a good question. That, again, personal belief, personal choice. So I actually don't say that's a good question. But once you don't know the answer, or even if you do, maybe you want to say, what interesting. Does anybody else know the answer to that? I've got an answer to that, but does anybody else have one? See, that way you can get their peers involved, and sometimes the answer from their peers can solidify it even more for the person, and then therefore you can either dovetail off of what the peer said or add something to what they said as well. You've got options. That's the key as a speaker. That's why you've got to know and believe in yourself, and that's why this is my last point. And that is, in my closing, just to remind you that I'm Sporty King, and this has been your Monday Midday Moment, to give you a boost during the day and keep you moving on your path to excellence. And that's why I say, especially as you share your life, know and believe in yourself. That's when you're answering the questions right. You're showing that you believe in yourself. When you give someone else an opportunity to answer from the floor, that's not giving away your power. That's saying, I'm confident enough to know that someone else's answer is not going to knock mine out. I will be either be able to add to their answer, or I'll be able to validate their answer at another level. That's what life is all about. That's what being a great speaker is about. Take care. God bless you, and have a wonderful week. Ciao.